morning, and welcome to Health Talk here on AM 1270 and 96.5 FM KXBX. I'm Paul Thomas. In the studio with us on a rainy Wednesday morning is Bill Kearney. And Bill, you've been fighting a little bug, huh?
Oh yeah, I went up to Eureka this weekend to walk in the autistic walkathon for my grandson, and it just poured all the way there. And then the day of the walk in Eureka, it was it rained all morning, and then it cleared off about noon. And then I did my 4 miles of walking with a knee I shouldn't have been walking on and a back I shouldn't have been walking on. Anyway, I did 4 miles, and by the time
That's pretty good.
I got done, I was, the guy that won it had walked 13 miles or 12.
Oh, wow. Were you just walking on like a circular track?
Yeah,
just
at Eureka High School.
Gotcha.
So the weather seemed to be pretty decent, but I never did warm up there. Even if it's nice, it's that air from the ocean that kind of just gets into you. So by the time by yesterday, I had completely lost my voice, and so we're gonna struggle through it. And I was looking across at the lake this morning, and it was nice at my house, and I looked at Lakeport, and it's you can't even see the outline of the city. So anyway, we're going to be talking about your health and lots of things that some of the things we've covered before. For some reason, there's been a tremendous amount of literature on the heart, and even though February was National Heart Month, it's become such a big issue. And also high cholesterol and almost anything you want to think about. And then something that I saw that, excuse me, that I hadn't thought about before. I've thought about it, but I never really did any research on it. It was about tattoos and how many tattoos that people have today. Excuse me, are they really bad for you? And there is several parts about it that can be, although not life-threatening so much as, but the thing that seems to be making people the most uncomfortable about right now is pollen season. It's here with a vengeance, and the wind and the rain, all of the rain that we had has caused the tree pollens and everything and the flowers to bloom sooner than usual, but it's bringing a huge case of pollen in a large chunk of our country in the United States, from Texas to New York. Spring arrived 2 to 3 weeks earlier than normal. It's one of our peak pollen counts from juniper pollen, which came out a month earlier than usual on February 27th, and pollen from grass also came out early this year in the week of March. We really can't control how much pollen there is outside in the air, but there are ways to mitigate its effect and to make it less influential on your daily activity, and that means cutting back on foods that boost the symptoms associated with certain pollens. For others, it'll mean avoiding exposure, and others will turn to medications and other therapies to stem symptoms like sneezing and runny noses. I never take any kind of cold medication or anything like that until I get to the point that I can't communicate, and I'm there now. I took an antihistamine this morning with a decongestant in it because my throat was filling up so fast that I was starting to choke on it. So even with the best planning, it's probably going to be a tough season for allergy sufferers. And the traditional weather patterns as we know them, winter, spring, summer and fall, and the allergy seasons tied to them seems to be changing. Our weather is changing. We went for 4 or 5 years without any rain, and then it's just it dumped on us. When we were driving up north to Eureka on Friday afternoon, it was pouring so hard the windshield wipers wouldn't even keep the windshields. You had to pull over, and then the hail and things that got as you got up into higher elevations became a real factor. So the lines between the weathers right now is becoming blurred, meaning they're all kind of running together. And there's a potential that people that used to have seasonal allergies have one long allergy season. So I had allergies when I was a kid. I grew out of them. The first place I moved to in California from Denver and Salt Lake City was Petaluma, and they were really bad in Petaluma. Then I moved down into I was managing Walgreens stores in San Francisco and San Jose and Palo Alto, and kind of got out of there until I moved up here 37 years ago. It'll be 38 years ago now. It was kind of a double whammy with everything hitting me at one time, because we not only have the grapes, we have the pears, we have the walnuts, we have kiwis, we have grasses, we have marijuana. It's all of these things are kind of compounding, and it's becoming earlier bloom times, and that's the impact of climbing carbon dioxide levels. Plants like carbon dioxide, and that's when you're in a city dwelling. There's carbon dioxide levels are high. You get a longer pollen season, one that starts earlier and lasts longer overall. But when you're in a rural area like this, where there is no break in between these things, and of course some people even got snow last weekend, making matters worse, it's like there's always some plant that's pollinating. So what's really a problem is they're just not getting a break. So we don't see any downturn in people using inhalers, rescue inhalers, steroid inhalers. We're going to talk a little bit later, as we did last week, a little bit about tapering off some of these inhalers when you have asthma. It's not just the plant pollen that's getting pumped up from the changing weather conditions, but because of this moisture that we have, mold spore levels have been higher because we're not getting as cold of winters, and the mold levels are also increasing. They spike in the spring and the fall. And up around Eureka and Humboldt County, it's moist all the time. Like I said, I never warmed up. It was probably 69, 70 degrees, and I was still cold, and I was wearing a jacket. My son that lives there, and my grandkids and great-grandkids, they're used to that weather, and they're walking around in T-shirts, and here I am in a sweatshirt, and I walked maybe a mile before I even took off my jacket. So there are lots of things that make it worse in the interaction between pollen allergies and food. Some individuals with the pollen allergies actually develop symptoms around the mouth and throat excuse me, immediately after eating raw, fresh fruits and vegetables and nuts or seeds that contain proteins that really cross against reactive to the pollen. So this actually is known as an oral allergy syndrome or a pollen food syndrome, and I never even thought about this before, but I do see it happening. The solution is right now, because these pollens are so great, is to cook fruits, nuts, and vegetables when your allergies are at their worst. Other allergy symptoms, you probably start needing to take some medications 2 weeks before you expect symptoms to begin. Now, you'd assume that we wouldn't have started this early, but we do. And these old things about changing your clothes when you come indoors, your clothes, even though you can't see it, are just covered with pollen. And if you change your clothes when you come inside, then you won't be carrying pollen around with you when you're walking. If you'll notice on your barbecue equipment outside, or your counters outside, or porches and things, you'll see this yellow covering or pods and things from trees that are coming down. Those are all pollen activities. So whenever possible, schedule your outdoor activities during the afternoon, because pollen levels are higher in the morning. Most of us get up in the morning, and if we're going to exercise, we go out and do our walks and things. It's better to start doing that in the afternoon until it becomes so warm that you can't get better from overexposing yourself. There were people that were in this walk that, like I said, did 12, 15 miles, and they were getting really warm. But their evaporation system, their sweat glands were working, and they were cooling off. Whenever possible, take a shower, wash your hair after working or playing outdoors. not an issue for me really, but for people that have hair, it's really important. Paul's over here laughing because he has a head of hair like a grandpa, you know. And it'll start turning white on you, you know, in about 10 years.
About 10
Paul, so,
years?
yeah.
My wife keeps saying she wants it to turn gray.
Does she?
She wants to see me with some gray hair. I don't know why, but that's what she keeps saying.
I can trim off some of my beard and give that to you. But you need to keep your windows closed during pollen season, a lot of us, because we like cool air coming in. Leave our sliders open to sleep because there's a breeze that comes off the lake. But pollen can blow in and cover surfaces in your home, and we've talked about this last year, especially your pillows. If you don't wash your hair, you lay on a pillow, and then you lay your head in that pillow, and then you fill yourself up. So rinse your nasal passages regularly with salt and water solution. It decreases the inflammation in the sinuses. My son has always had a breathing problem, and he's close to 50 now, but he, from using his inhalers, and even though he washes them out, he ends up with rawness in his nasal passages from using those steroids, and you need to, at that time, use some salt water or something similar to that and rinse out your nasal passages so you get that steroid and those pollens off of you. Because I know so many of you are interested in tattoos, and probably not so much for our listening audience as probably relatives that they have, sons and daughters and granddaughters, and as you go through society now, and if you watch television, roughly half of the millennials have a tattoo, as do 36% of the Gen Xers. According to a recent poll, the number of Americans with at least one tattoo has jumped up to 50% for the last 4 years. That's led to some, excuse me, some health experts to take a closer look at the practice when what they found has raised some questions and concerns, like anything would be if you were, like I've said many times, if you were taking aspirin today. It would probably require a prescription because of the side effects that it can have, but we thought nothing about making it over the counter many, many years ago. But a study that was published this year found that tattoos may interfere with the way your skin sweats. I never really thought of this. Compared to non-tattooed skin, if your ink skin excretes about 50% less sweat. They also found the sodium in sweat was more concentrated when released from tattooed skin. When your glands produce sweat, the skin tends to reabsorb the sodium and other electrolytes from that perspiration before it breaks free. It doesn't matter much if you just have a single tattoo, but most everybody that I know becomes addicted to getting tattoos, and when they get one, then they get another. But even if you have a few, but if you have an extensive coverage, especially on your back, arms, or other areas densely populated by sweat glands, this could interfere with the way that your skin would ability to cool your body when you need to hold in important nutrients. And while I was doing this run on Saturday, very few people had tattoos, and that maybe it was a different part of the population. However, when I stopped in Laytonville to get a sandwich, because you bypass the Willits now, the people in the restaurant that I went to were almost all had full sleeves, and nice people, but great into the tattoos. So you can look at someone in the military where tattoos are very prevalent, and if they're exposed to high heat and a heavy workload, there could be problems with them regulating the heat within their system. All of this is very much speculative, not anything to get so alarmed about at this point, but other research has linked tattoos with different health issues. And while exceptionally rare, there are reports linking tattoos to melanoma. I just went in on Monday morning and had my skin all checked for any kind of skin cancers, and because I am dark complected and I'm out in the sun on weekends and things and live on a lake, I have a tendency to develop brown spots from the sun. However, none of those were melanoma, or they didn't take any biopsies of my skin. But in case studies that were published in 2015, a doctor from the University Hospital in Galway, Ireland, writes about a 33-year-old man with an elaborate multicolored chest tattoo. Malignant melanoma had turned up only in the areas of the tattoo, and they were filled in with red ink. In that particular case, it wasn't the red ink, but the man likely had an existing melanoma that his tattoo artist hit with the red ink needle, and they have then seeded other portions of their skin with malignant cells. But if you do have a tattoo that's red, probably scary if you're at risk for melanoma, because spreading malignancy through this sort of skin seeding is rare, but is certainly possible in the setting of tattooing. Excuse me. Other studies link tattoos to skin cancer. The process of tattooing involves the integration of metal salts and organic dyes into the dermal layer, the skin layer of, that's the outside layer of the skin, and the resulting low-grade chronic inflammation that can result from this could stimulate malignant transformation. They're mostly unregulated. The tattoo inks and blood-borne diseases have reportedly been spread by a tainted link. An investigation in the New England Journal of Medicine found that contamination could have occurred at various points, meaning that tattoo parlors weren't to blame for this, but the inks are considered to be cosmetics, and as a result, the inks aren't allowed into the marketplace without much oversight, because they fall under the cosmetic things. Metals used in tattoo inks may cause skin reactions. The FDA is conducting research to improve its knowledge of the tattoo inks and the ingredients to look at them more closely. The risks associated with tattoos, if there are any, are not entirely known, but as more and more people opt for ink, they are investigating it more closely than they ever have before. So, as you know, on this program, we tell you everything. Whether or not it involves you or not, when it comes out as news, we feel like it's important, and so we talk to you about it. And that just happens to be one of those things that we have chosen to, because of the rapidity of that involvement of people getting tattoos, we've decided to talk about it a little bit. But we were talking about skin cancers and malignancies, and there's a dramatic rise of deadly skin cancer in older adults. You know, we told you many times about people that are out in the sun and at a younger age, and back in my youth, people were using baby oil and iodine to get their tans, and females, I guess, more than males, but I grew up on a farm, and we were exposed to sun all the time. Paul, you're an athlete. You get out in the sun quite a bit with your ball teams and stuff. Do you ever use sunscreen? Or?
I don't. Yeah, I don't. I probably should more, but I'm not shirtless or anything like that out there either.
You're not a Venice Beach type.
No, no, I don't.
But I bet you protect your son.
Yeah, oh, for sure. With Matthew, he's very fair-skinned, yeah. And so my wife is always constantly putting sunscreen on him, and because he's got very, very fair skin, and he. If you look at my wife, which you've seen, she's covered in freckles because she's Irish.
Yeah. And
Matthew's starting to get his freckles on his face now, and so it'll just be probably a matter of time before they probably start to pop out. But so he gets covered quite often.
Well, we think about covering our kids, and we don't think about ourselves. When I was in this walk, it was overcast. And so I didn't put on any sunscreen, and I didn't wear a cap, and I usually cover my head, my ears, my nose with a sunscreen of some sort. But older adults are one of the most likely age groups to develop and die of skin cancer. And that includes melanoma, which can be a deadly type of skin cancer, especially if not caught early. So, fifth most common cancer in men and the sixth most common in women. The melanoma rates in older adults have risen dramatically in the past 40 years. In men aged 61 and older, the rates were 11 times as high as they were in 2009. They were 11 times higher in 2009 as in 1970. Women aged 61 and older were 4 times as high over that same period of time. And strangely, most of those people were residents of a single county in Minnesota. And we're not sure if a fair skin is the risk factor for skin cancer. We know that any kind of damage to the skin from the sun is a factor. But results may not apply to non-whites, as fair skin is a risk factor, but more new cases of skin cancer occur among white people in the general population than in any other racial or ethnic group. So you need to take important steps, and now that we're getting into this season, and we have no idea what kind of a heat factor or sun factor we're going to have. I was just in to see one of my health professionals yesterday, and I said, how did you get this suntan? And he said, well, I had a medical meeting in Hawaii, and we just got back from Hawaii a couple of weeks ago, and you at 80 degrees, you don't really think that you're going to have too much of a problem, but you're in an area where, and even Lake County is in an area where there isn't a lot of carbon monoxide or dioxide or things that get in the way, or smog that gets in the way of those rays getting into your skin. So you need to kind of minimize sun exposure throughout your life, even as an older adult. That can lead to damage of skin cells, which can lead to mutation of genes that turn a normal cell into a cancerous one. And remember, what we talk about here is a lot of us are in our later stages of life, and you think about the quality of life you have left, and am I going to do everything that Bill Kearney or my doctor says to do when I have 10 or 15 or 20 years left? Maybe not, but it's my obligation to tell you and remind you. The midday sun, of course, is the worst sun, where you get the most danger from the sun rays. You need to wear protective clothing such as shirts, hats, and sunglasses. Apply sunscreen when going outdoors and avoid tanning beds. A lot of people are going on vacation right now because it's spring break. A lot of kids and older adults, because they travel too, because grandparents are taking their kids with them to Disneyland and those kind of places. They end up getting a lot more sun than they would think they are. So examine your skin often for new skin growths or changes in existing moles. Ask your doctor to perform a skin check. How often you should have your skin checked by a doctor is at least once a year. Catching skin cancer early increases the odds of successful treatment. So one piece of good news from the study above is that melanoma survival is better than in the past. In the 1970s, the survival rate at 5 years after diagnosis was 73%. In the 2000s, the melanoma survival rate at 5 years was 95%. Now, 5 years may not seem to be a huge amount to you, but to somebody that is getting to be in the late stages of their life, it's a long period of time. Paul, do you wear tennis shoes?
I have some, yeah.
Do you wear them until they rot so bad that I mean, your feet smell so bad you need to throw the shoes away?
No, typically with me, for whatever reason, it might be kind of the type of shoes that I have, the heels wear out. It's kind of just the way that I walk, I guess.
Really?
And so, no, I never get them to the point where they wear out because of the way they smell, but they might wear out because of the way that my feet wear them out. Yeah.
Well, I used to, in college, I played athletics, and I had roommates that in the fraternity house and in the dorm that didn't really pay much attention to how how their feet smelled or the rest of them smelled. But a lot of people, back in the old days, in wearing, when you wore good shoes, dress shoes, you wore wingtips. Wingtips were those kind of shoes that never wear out, but you had to throw them away because they smelled so bad after a time. So if you're not self-conscious about that, don't worry about it, but you need to wash your feet daily with soap. Even a hair dryer will help get your feet dry. I swim every day, so I make sure my wife gives me these great big thick towels that I can dry off with. They don't fit between my toes. I end up getting a handkerchief or something to dry my toes with. So if you can't dry them with a towel, put some powder in between them or antifungal powder to help keep them dry. Choose the right socks. Sports socks help keep moisture away from the skin and tend not to retain moisture. I just brought some shoes because I'm going on a little trip on a cruise that are breathing shoes, and they're called Easy Breathe. And you can jump right out of the pool or the water and put these on, and your feet dry almost instantly. So if you're not wearing wool or cotton socks that absorb moisture, that can build up in your shoes and cause an odor. So keep your shoes fresh, made of breathable materials such as sports shoes or shoes made of natural materials. Try not to wear the same shoes 2 days in a row unless they have thoroughly dried out. Remove the inserts when possible and help them dry faster. If you're on vacation and you don't pick up athlete's foot someplace, whether it's in a shower at the beach or a shower in a hotel or on your shoes that you seem to wear, you'll be very lucky. So if it doesn't bother you, eventually it's going to cause a fungal infection. So if you do have a foot wound or skin problem, or if your feet sweat excessively, talk to your doctor, and those therapies might help. When we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about having blood in your urine, and it's not always serious, but it's certainly worth checking.
Have you been to a pharmacy recently where the employees know your name when you walk in the door and have your prescription refill waiting? If you answer no, then you probably haven't been to one of Northlake Medical Pharmacies. Hi, my name is Bill Kearney, owner of Northlake Medical Pharmacies. For 37 years, my wife Dana, our daughter Brandy, and our employees have been dedicated to giving you the best service we have when you come to get your prescriptions. We are a family-owned pharmacy, and our employees are members of the Northlake Medical Pharmacies family. We know you have a choice when you get your prescriptions filled, and we appreciate you making us your choice. You see, you are part of our family too. We truly care about your health and taking care of you when you aren't feeling well. We deliver your prescriptions free when we know ahead of time and do the best we can to take care of you and your family. Northlake Medical Pharmacies with 2 locations for you, on Hill Road across from Sutter Lakeside Hospital and outside the Bruno Shops Mart in Lakeport.
Since 1976, Habitat for Humanity worldwide has been building for and helping communities by offering reliable housing for those that need it. You can help. Thousands of homes have been built around the world, and the work is continuing in Lake County. Habitat for Humanity Lake County is looking for volunteers to continue the tradition. If you are enthusiastic, community-minded, and don't mind construction work, then bring your energy, and Habitat for Humanity will provide all the training. Because of people like you, veterans, fire victims, and qualifying families are housed. Be a part of the change that you want to see in your community. Learn more by calling Lori at 994-1100. That's 994-1100. Once again, that's 994-1100 to become a Lake County volunteer for Habitat for Humanity.
We're asking folks about marriage.
Marriage makes me think of sports. You know, teamwork, dedication.
Okay, let's see what people say.
Let's say your marriage is a sport. What sport would it be?
Basketball. Surfing.
They have to be a team sport.
A lot of back and forth.
A lot of people watching.
So how many people are influenced by your marriage?
Hundreds.
You really think about the ripple effect.
It's like a wave.
Want to improve your marriage? For ideas, go to foryourmarriage.org. A message from the Catholic Church.
Who do I wrestle for? I wrestle on my high school team for Jason Garcia. my fiercest competitor during practice, and my biggest fan during meets. I wrestle for my parents who practice what they preach, the importance of hard work, commitment, and dedication. I wrestle for the chance to put our little high school right here in California on the map.
Wearing the uniform of your high school comes with a big responsibility. Younger kids look up to you. Your teammates count on you. And the reputation of your high school depends on you. Do you have what it takes to participate in a high school sport?
And I wrestle for the glory that is mine when I do my best. That's who I wrestle for.
This message presented by the California Interscholastic Federation and the California State Athletic Directors Association.
All right, we're back.
We are. We were talking just before the break about blood in the urine, and of course everybody panics if they see blood in your urine, and it's alarming. It also can show up in microscopic amounts found during a urine test. I remember when I first came to Lake County and opened the pharmacy at Hill Road, people would go in to see the physician that were seeking drugs, and they would go in the bathroom and cut their finger and drop blood in their urine sample and to get narcotics,
wow,
saying they were passing kidney stones. So it's clearly, if it's clearly visible, it's called hematuria, and blood isn't clearly visible, it's microscopic hematuria. So it may be red or pink or similar in color to tea or rust. It often occurs with other symptoms. It takes very little blood to discolor the urine, so you're probably not losing as much blood as it looks like you are. But the first step is really to determine if there's any discoloration at all, if it's actually blood. And there is other ways, such as blood protein, hemoglobin, which is the thing that forms red blood cells, eating beets or select medications, including some used to treat urinary tract infections. So occasional vaginal bleeding can be mistaken for hematuria and vice versa. Confirmed gross or microscopic in older adults nearly always indicate the need for an evaluation to determine the cause of the bleeding. The risk being an indicator of cancer somewhere in the urinary tract increases substantially after the age of 40. There can be numerous steps in the diagnostic process. I just had a patient in yesterday that had some evidence of bleeding a couple of months ago, went away. Eventually they found a blood clot in the kidney or bladder that was huge, and they had to cut out. He was in surgery for an elongated period of time. It can be caused by a urinary infection, which usually has a frequent urge to urinate, or abdominal or pain, more severe symptoms as fever, chills, and even if you don't have symptoms, urine tests are almost always performed to check for an infection. Coming from the kidneys due to kidney disease or cysts in the urine can often indicate where the bleed is coming from. A family or personal history that includes kidney disease or urinary stones. If suspected, testing for cancer may include looking for kidney, bladder, prostate, or other potential possibilities. There's no direct treatment for this. Rather, treatment is directed at the cause. So in addition to an infection, kidney disease and cancer as possible causes, there's a long list of other possibilities with temporary and generally not worrisome or easily addressed, including strenuous exercise, particularly running. Lots of athletes, especially people that play contact sports, have strenuous exercise, and then they get hit somewhere in the lower part of their body, which can cause a enlarged kidney and could cause a blood clot. There's enlarged prostate, which sometimes is a common condition that causes an increase in the size of the prostate gland, and that surrounds the urethra, the tube that you urinate through. So new blood vessel growth that occurs with that condition can create fragile blood vessels, and they're susceptible to rupture. And there's a lot of diseases that can be inherited genetically. So polycystic kidney disease, African descent sickle cell anemia can be a cause. Kidney or bladder stones. Minerals in the urine can form crystals that can become small, hard stones, and those are just like pieces of glass like you get when you have the gout. You may not know you have them until you begin to pass it through the urinary tract. I have never had this, but people that have had told me it's the most excruciating pain they've ever had, very similar to having a child if you're a female. Those of you who are female or listening will understand that. I don't want to be able to understand it. I hope that never happens.
I've had kidney stones.
Have you?
Yeah, a couple times.
And was it?
It's not fun.
Yeah. You didn't pass them the first time?
Well, the first time I went in to Sutter, and this was a long time ago. It was when I was living up on Cobb. That ride from Cobb to Sutter was horrible. I mean, I was in so much pain, and I kind of suspected it was kidney stones, but I didn't really know. I just had, and it was just insane pain in my back, lower back, where the kidneys are, and they gave me an IV of something that took the pain away pretty quick, and then I got put into this machine that supposedly broke them up. Mm-hmm. So I never felt them pass. But when I had them a second time, they did not put me in that machine, and I did pass them. And it was not fun. I mean, the actual worst pain wasn't from the bladder out. It was from it's from the kidneys to the bladder. That's where all the pain's at. Yeah, I felt, for me anyway.
And that's where the stone gets stuck, probably.
Yeah, in between, the kidney and the bladder is where the most pain for me was. And then, and passing it out, and they give you a little strainer to catch it with. So I have it in a little box somewhere.
Did you have to take it in and show them?
No, they said I could, but I never did. It was, I mean, obviously it was a kidney stone. And I haven't had one in many years, but yeah, it's not fun.
No.
It was painful.
And there are certain people that just continue to get them. So it's something that lots of time, I don't know if they told you to drink extra fluid.
Yeah, oh yeah. Stopped. Well, I was drinking back then. I mean, it wasn't uncommon for me to drink, 2 or 3 sodas a day, and coffee in the morning at work. And I wasn't drinking any water. It was all sugary, caffeine, that kind of stuff. And, and since then, I maybe have 2 cups of coffee in the morning, and then after that, I drink very little, if any, soda at all. Water a lot, and that helps. So.
Well, there you have it, folks. We have an eyewitness to what
Stay
that
away
was
from
like.
the soda.
Stay away from the soda.
Yeah, especially grapefruit soda.
Really?
Yeah, it's weird because my friend a few years before that had gotten kidney stones, and he was drinking the Squirt soda like crazy, and then I was drinking the Squirt soda like crazy, and I got it too. I mean, whether it's coincidence or there's a link there, I don't know.
Well, there's another thing you can take from this and hopefully avoid. A lot of people now are doing genome testing, and they're finding out what their inheritance is, where they came from, and there's now one called 23andMe, which is, I think it's $99, and they became the first company to market reports showing your health risks based on genetics. The first reports will be made available this month in the United States, indicating your genetic or inherited propensities for conditions such as Parkinson's disease, late onset Alzheimer's. Consumers can now have direct access to certain genetic risk information. I don't know about this, Paul, because I don't know if you'd want to know ahead of time
I don't know either.
that you're going to have Parkinson's disease, or we found that happen in in people that were getting Alzheimer's and dementia in Colombia, South America. And it was a whole village, and it was a whole family, and every one of them had the genetic markers. What do? Do you change your lifestyle? Do you quit working? It's important that people understand that the genetic risk is just one piece of the puzzle. It doesn't mean that they will ultimately develop a disease. So the private company has been focusing on providing ancestry information after the FDA reined in efforts to offer genetic-based information about 4 years ago. There are other sources, other ways to get that information. Mostly genome screening analyzes all your DNA to identify such genetic variants. Another type is 1% of the human genome that contains the majority of these disease-causing mutations and makes proteins in the body. Anyone can have this testing to determine your health risks, ranging from looking for a specific condition to screening your whole genome. So analysis can be useful for people who have unexplained diseases or conditions. The part that bothers me is if this becomes public, is an insurance company going to deny you life insurance because they know that you're going to get a genetic disease, and they will underwrite it to keep those underlying conditions not insured?
Don't they kind of already do that? I mean,
well, they,
you know,
to the point that information, that health information, is confidential. But I don't know if there are insurance companies now that are paying for the genome testing to make sure they don't. I think that's, in my estimation, that's unethical. But if I was the insurer and had the risk, I guess I would. Maybe I would have a different opinion about it. But it's a defining moment, giving individuals direct access to more information about how their DNA could impact their health, which is something they can't do much about. Of course, it could help people make more informed decisions when it comes to lifestyle and healthcare providers, according to the Food and Drug Administration. So the agency stressed that factors other than genetics, such as lifestyle and pollution, play roles when it comes to health. When I was there in Eureka last weekend, I was amazed at the autistic kids. And they were all out there. They were all out there trying to walk just like in Special Olympics. But there were several of them in a small community like that. So these 23andMe tests were specifically barred from serving as the sole basis for major medical treatment decisions. The FDA said it was founded in 2006 and is right next door in Mountain View, California, where it has its headquarters. Costs $199 for your DNA health plus your ancestry. A genetic test for just on ancestry alone is $99. Again, I'm telling you this because I want you to be aware of what's out there that's possible, but not that something that you really need to make it mandatory. It's kind of up to you. I understand the DNA testing to find out where you're from, because most of us are immigrants. Actually, we don't know. You know, I came from Ireland, or my one grandfather came from Ireland. The other one came from Denmark. So you just never know, and it's like maybe not knowing who your life parent was, and you were adopted or you were a foster child, wanting to know. Not that you specifically would do something with that information, but it's just something that you need to know. Here's another thing that's brand new, and that's a cancer-detecting gum that may soon be available. You won't find it in the candy store, but there may be a new chewing gum that's going to save your life. It's not Juicy Fruit or Bazooka, I'm afraid to tell you. Can't blow bubbles with it. But it's being developed by an Alabama company called Volatile Analysis, and it's designed to determine whether a person has cancer. The gum absorbs what are known as volatiles, and it's in a person's saliva, and as they chew it, then the chewed gum is analyzed to determine whether it contains certain chemicals produced in the body when a person has cancer. There are chemicals produced that's called volatile organic compounds, and they're unique to every type of cancer. By determining which of those compounds are found in the gum, they can tell you which kind of cancer is present in the patient. The reason for using it, excuse me, because it remains in your mouth over an extended period of time and it's durable enough to withstand testing. With the use of gum, you no longer need to go through blood tests or urine analysis. Again, I don't know how effective this is. It's just being developed right now. They seem to think, the National Cancer Institute thinks there's a huge market for it. There was 1.5 million new cancer cases diagnosed in the United States in 2016. Over the past 15 years, there's been a lot of attempts with different products and processes for early detection of cancer. They've looked at breath samples, urine samples, and even dogs that might be able to smell cancer. None of these efforts are proven to detect cancer early, and that's really what we're talking about. The gum is still in the testing stage. It may be too early to determine how well it works, but the company is hoping to make it available to doctors and patients sometime next year, so it's not that far off. While you probably won't be able to blow bubbles with it, it will come in flavors that taste just like candy, and I don't know how expensive it is. I don't know the percent of reliability. This just came out 9 hours ago on Fox News. I came over on my computer of a new health thing, and I clicked on it, and I thought it was kind of interesting, something to share with our public, because it does make it can make a difference in how soon you get treatment for a cancer that you didn't know you had. Excuse me again. While I was in Eureka this weekend, my great-grandson, who's a little over 1 year old, all of a sudden, the day I got there on Friday, he was just fine. On Saturday night, after we did our walk, and of course he wasn't walking, all of a sudden he developed a tremendous breathing problem and was sitting on my son-in-law's lap and gasping for air. And they asked me whether they thought they should take him to the emergency room, and I said, yes, of course. And so we talked about what probably was wrong, and it was either asthma, bronchitis, or pneumonia. They gave him a treatment that was an albuterol-type drug, which would open up the airways and let him breathe, and diagnosed them incorrectly of having pneumonia. But the good thing was they gave him a shot of an antibiotic thinking it might be bacterial pneumonia, and they gave him a breathing treatment. If you were an adult, there's new evidence of what corticosteroid would be involved in if you had a asthma attack, and sometimes 1 or 2 doses of dexamethasone, which is an oral tablet, are sometimes used instead of the usual 5 days of prednisone for asthma attacks. I was talking to one of our patients yesterday, and they were complaining about the cost of a medication, and I said, let me look at the profile. I looked at the profile of the individual, and they were taking 2 non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, and they were taking a steroid anti-inflammatory, and they had high blood pressure. I addressed the individual that was the partner of the patient, and I says, why is he taking 2 non-steroidal anti-inflammatories for asthma? And she said, well, he was on prednisone. I said, well, he's still taking prednisone. And I said, and when you have 2 non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, they're working against each other. So what they're talking about in treating asthma, we talked about inhalers before. They're finding out that you can take a couple of doses of dexamethasone, which is a strong anti-inflammatory, 10 times stronger than prednisone, and instead of the usual 5 days for asthma attack. In kids now, you'll hear that 1 dose of oral dexamethasone might work as well as 5 days of prednisone. So the new evidence has flaws. It's too soon to know the optimal dose and duration of dexamethasone. I'm telling you, when you take Decadron or dexamethasone, we usually use that in people with swelling of the brain. I happened to go on a cruise 15 or 20 years ago and had poison oak that I contacted in Lake County. Went on a cruise the next day. I was in Florida. Went into the ship's doctor. They had never seen poison oak that bad. I had to prescribe my own steroid, and at the time the only thing they had was dexamethasone. It works very well, but it's very strong. Right now we recommend 40 to 60 milligrams a day for about 5 days if an oral steroid is needed for people with adult asthma. And they need to have an action plan where they have the medication on hand, where they use a short-acting beta agonist like albuterol. Most of you know albuterol or Ventolin or ProAir as a rescue inhaler because it doesn't really treat the inflammation. It treats the mucus that's going down the bronchioles, the airways, and allows you to breathe without having to take a steroid. Most of the patients will be started on an oral steroid if they have a really acute asthma, especially adults. Some patients may be told to double or quadruple their inhaled steroid for 1 or 2 weeks. So we're trying to get away from a lot of the use of steroids on a continual basis if you don't have to. And the reason is, like I was telling this individual yesterday, long-term use of steroids can cause eyesight problems, can cause immunity problems, can cause bone softening problems. And so although it's an excellent drug, and when I started practicing pharmacy back in the 60s, it was the drug of choice for anybody hurting with aches and pains because it worked so well. We didn't realize at that time the side effects of taking it on a long-term basis. Another over-the-counter thing that just came to my attention yesterday was we had a lady come in with her mother, and she wanted to know what oral iron she needed to take because she had been to a pulmonologist and also to a hematologist that told her that she needed to take elemental iron. For iron deficiency, most people need 100 to 200 milligrams a day, usually ferrous sulfate or fumarate. They often have 65 to 100 milligrams of elemental iron versus about 35 milligram with ferrous gluconate. And you don't look at the milligrams of ferrous sulfate, you look at the elemental iron on it, and that's what I was trying to tell the lady yesterday. Starting with just 1 tablet a day, because you can get, from iron, you can get some gastrointestinal upset, you can get some constipation. So start titrating with 1 a day and then up to 2 a day, and I told her she could go up to 3 a day in a week or 2, but she said the doctor had her take it twice a day only, and I told her to stick to that. It's best absorbed on an empty stomach, but sometimes it's okay to take it with food if you get gastrointestinal upset, some cramping or bubbles forming from it. Take it with food, but it works better without food because food helps absorb part of the iron. If needed, strategies to limit the gastrointestinal upset, such as switching to a product with less iron, or consider a once-daily dosing as an option with a time-release iron that you only have to take once. It may take longer to correct the deficiency at a lower dose, but at the risk of you not taking it because it has a side effect. And you shouldn't be compelled to take iron in any other form. Slow-release or enteric-coated products may not be absorbed as well because they dissolve later in the gastrointestinal tract, but they also avoid a lot of the side effects. So there's no proven advantage to using more costly iron forms such as Ferrex 150 or Proephren Extra Strength. Use the most elemental form of iron, and it will be just as effective as the other. And if you're having problems with side effects, call your pharmacist, and we'll be able to tell you which would be the best way to take it and how many to take it. In a few minutes we have left, traveling abroad, people are starting to go to Mexico and to South America and the Caribbean and Hawaii and things. Traveler's diarrhea affects up to 70% of you in developing areas such as Africa, Asia, Mexico. Prevention, which would be avoiding raw foods and tap water or ice. I've known people that would go to Mexico and they would avoid any of the vendor food, but they would have drinks and use the ice or the salad. And those are both things where the bacteria can be very hazardous. So you need to stay hydrated and use the over-the-counter loperamide for mild diarrhea. Pepto-Bismol is an option, but has a slower onset and seems to be less effective. For more severe diarrhea, we see physicians writing prescriptions for ciprofloxacin, azithromycin, that's a Z-Pak, or Cipro. Azithromycin, the Z-Pak, for pregnant women, kids, and visitors to areas with quinolone resistance, such as Southeast Asia. And then vaccines for hepatitis A and B. I just did a couple going to the same place I'm going to, and they had both hepatitis A and B shots. I just took the B shot because it's very not nearly as contagious to get the other one. So, and then mosquito-borne illnesses such as dengue fever, malaria, use sprays to get protected from that, and they are very effective. I was in Hawaii a couple of weeks ago. So I want to end this by reminding you that we're still doing immunizations. We mentioned Zostavax last week. You can get a Zostavax shot if you're on Partnership Health and you're over 50 and up to 64 and a half years old. They will pay for it if you're not on Medicare D. Tetanus shots, pneumonia shots, whatever you need. We'd be more than happy. We had the health department ask us about rabies yesterday. We sent them to the health department because it's a series of 3 shots that are horrendously expensive, and we wanted to make sure that the patient benefited completely from that huge expense. Remember, we're delivering to Kelseyville, Lakeport, Nice, Lucerne, Upper Lake, the Rivieras, free for you to transfer your prescription, and want to remind you that we're North Lake Medical Pharmacy with 2 locations for you at 5136 Hill Road East across from Sutter Lakeside Hospital. Call us there at 263-6192. And outside the Bruno Shop Smart at 347 Lakeport Boulevard, call us there at 263-1328. Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, Bill. We'll see everybody back here again next Wednesday at 10 a.m. for Health Talk here on AM 1270 and 96.5 FM KXBX, Lakeport.